Hello, my friends. This is Zara, and welcome to Super English Talks. Today, we begin a beautiful journey. A journey to learn how to speak English fluently, clearly, and with confidence. But before we start, I want to ask you something. Have you ever felt this way? You know some English words. You understand some sentences. But when it is time to speak, your mind becomes blank. You want to say something, but the words do not come out. You feel stuck. You feel shy. And then you think, maybe I am just not good at English. If that sounds like you, listen carefully. Because this story, this lesson, might change how you think about learning forever. The real meaning of fluency. Fluency does not mean perfect grammar. Fluency means flow. It means you can speak with ease. It means your thoughts move into words without fear. Imagine you are standing near a river. When the water flows, it does not stop and think, should I go left? Should I go right? No. It just flows. That is what speaking English fluently feels like. But how can you reach that flow? That is what we are going to explore together. And I promise I will make it simple, slow, and clear, so you can listen, understand, and practice along with me. Why so many learners struggle? Let us be honest. Most English learners spend years studying, but they still cannot speak fluently. Why? Because they learn English like a subject, not like a language to live and use. You see, English is not only about remembering grammar rules or word lists. It is about rhythm, emotion, and real life. When we try to memorize everything, our brain becomes tired. But when we listen, feel, and use English, it becomes part of us. Let me tell you a small story. The story of Maria, the silent student. Maria was one of my students a few years ago. She was kind, smart, and hardworking. She studied every night, watched English videos, read grammar books. But when I asked her a question in class, she looked down. She did not speak. One day I asked Maria, "What is wrong?" She said quietly, "Zara, I understand everything in English, but when I try to speak, I feel like a baby. Everyone speaks better than me." Maybe you feel like Maria sometimes. Maybe you also think I understand, but I cannot speak. So I told her something simple. Maria, your problem is not English. It is fear. She looked surprised. Fear. Yes, fear. The fear of being wrong. That fear stops many learners from ever becoming fluent. They wait to speak until they are perfect. But here is the truth. You do not become fluent after you are perfect. You become fluent because you practice while you are not perfect. The mindset shift. To become fluent, you need to change your mindset first. You must stop thinking, I need to learn more before I speak, and start thinking, I will speak to learn more. When Maria began speaking, small sentences, simple ideas, even with mistakes, something amazing happened. Her brain started working faster. Her mouth started to remember sounds. Her fear became smaller. After 1 month, she said, Zara, I can finally talk to my coworker in English without panic. That is fluency. Not perfection, but freedom. Listening and speaking the two wings. Imagine you want to fly. You need two wings, right? In English, listening and speaking are those two wings. You cannot fly with one. If you only study grammar or read books, that is like flapping one wing. You move, but you do not rise. When you listen more and speak more, you start to lift off the ground. So, from today, I want you to think of yourself as a listener-speaker. Every time you hear English, listen with attention. Every time you get a chance, speak, even if it is to yourself. You can say simple things like, I am learning English today. This is interesting. I want to speak better. Do not wait for the right time. There is no perfect time. There is only now. The truth about fluency. People often ask me, Zara, how long does it take to become fluent? I always smile and say, it depends on how brave you are. Fluency is not only about time. It is about consistency. If you give English 10 minutes every day and you use those 10 minutes with focus, you will grow faster than someone who studies for 2 hours once a week but never speaks. So, if you are listening right now, I want you to make a small promise to yourself. Say this with me. I will speak, even when it is not perfect. I will listen, even when I do not understand everything. I will keep going. That promise is the first step to fluency. Reflection and takeaway. At the end of this first chapter, remember this. Fluency begins in your mind, not your mouth. When you remove fear, when you give yourself permission to speak, your voice begins to grow. So, as we move to the next chapter, I want you to think about this question. What am I afraid of when I speak English? Because when you understand that fear, you can finally walk past it and begin to flow. What real practice looks like. Let me tell you something simple but true. Many students believe that if they study longer, they will learn faster. But time alone does not make you fluent. What makes you fluent is the kind of practice you do. Think about this. If you sit for 2 hours writing grammar notes but never speak, your speaking muscles do not move. You learn with your eyes, not with your mouth. But fluency lives in your mouth. So, the first rule of real practice is this. Practice must be active, not passive. When you read, say some sentences out loud. When you listen, repeat what you hear. When you watch something in English, pause and imitate the voice. Do not just sit and listen quietly. Move your mouth. Use your voice. Because English is not just information. It is sound, rhythm, and feeling. The story of Ollie, the taxi driver. Now, let me tell you about Ollie. Ollie was a taxi driver in Dubai. He always wanted to speak English because most of his customers were tourists. But he never had time to study. He worked 10 hours every day. One day, he decided to do something small. He started talking to himself in English in the car. When he saw a building, he said, "This building is tall." When he stopped at a red light, he said, "Now I am waiting." When he saw the beach, he said, "The water looks beautiful today." He did not study grammar. He did not open a book. He just used small moments to speak English aloud. After 2 months, something amazing happened. A tourist entered his taxi and said, "Can you take me to the museum?" And without thinking, Ollie said, "Of course, please sit." The museum is 15 minutes away. His words came naturally. No fear. No pause. Just flow. Why? Because he was practicing every day in real life. He turned his normal day into English practice. The power of small habits. People think fluency comes from big actions. They say, "One day I will go to an English-speaking country." Or, "One day I will join an English course." But that day never comes. The truth is, big change comes from small habits done again and again. Imagine a small seed. You water it every day. At first, nothing happens. But slowly it grows roots, then a small green leaf, then a strong plant. That is how your English grows. Every small action you take, listening for 10 minutes, speaking a few sentences, repeating one video, is like giving water to your English plant. It looks small, but it is powerful. How to build simple daily habits. Let us make this practical. Here are 3 small habits you can start today. Habit 1. Speak 1 minute a day. Take any topic, your morning, your dream, your plan, and speak for 1 minute in English. Do not worry about mistakes. Just speak. If you do this for 1 month, your tongue will start to move more easily. Habit 2. Listen with full attention. Choose one short video or podcast every day. Listen carefully. Try to catch the emotion, the tone, the rhythm. Do not only focus on meaning. Focus on sound. Because when your ears understand rhythm, your mouth learns it too. Habit 3. Repeat and shadow. Shadowing means speaking together with the audio. You listen and copy at the same time. It feels strange in the beginning, but it is one of the fastest ways to build fluency. When you copy, you train your mouth to move like a native speaker. It is like singing a song. You learn by rhythm and feeling. The story of May, the quiet listener. There was a girl named May from China. She was shy, but she loved listening to English songs. She never tried to speak. But one day, she started singing along. Her pronunciation was not perfect, but she kept doing it. After a few weeks, she began to notice something. When she spoke English sentences, they sounded smoother. Her mouth could move faster. She did not think too much about grammar anymore. She felt more natural. What changed? She trained her speaking muscles through listening and imitation. That is what happens when you turn listening into active practice. The science behind real practice. Let us talk about how your brain learns a language. When you study English by reading or writing, your brain stores information. But when you speak and listen at the same time, your brain builds connections between sound and meaning. Every time you repeat, your brain becomes faster. Your mouth remembers what your brain wants to say. After some time, you do not need to think about every word. The words start to come naturally. That is the secret of real practice. Repetition builds automatic speech. Automatic speech creates fluency. The big mistake learners make. Many learners focus only on learning new words. They say, "Today I will learn 20 words." But then, they forget them a few days later. Words without use disappear. It is like writing on water. It looks clear for a moment, then it is gone. So, instead of learning too many new words, try to use the ones you already know. If you learn the word happy, use it 5 times in a day. Say, "I am happy today." "This coffee makes me happy." "My friend looks happy." When you use a word often, your brain keeps it forever. That is how small practice becomes big progress. Reflection and takeaway. So, what have we learned in this chapter? Real practice means active use, not silent study. Small habits done every day are stronger than long study done once a week. You do not need to wait for a perfect time or place. You can practice English anywhere. In your room, in the bus, in the kitchen, or while walking. Speak to yourself. Listen to something. Repeat a sentence. Every small effort is a drop of water for your English. Every drop counts. As we move to the next chapter, I want you to ask yourself this question. What small habit can I start today? 1 minute of speaking? 10 minutes of listening? Maybe both. Because one day, you will look back and realize those small actions built your fluency. Why fast English feels so hard. When we first learn English, we hear words clearly in the classroom. Teachers speak slowly and carefully. For example, they say, "What are you doing?" But in real life, people say, "What you doing?" The sounds connect. The words become shorter. The rhythm changes. Your brain does not recognize those connected sounds at first. It hears one long sound, not separate words. That is why you can read well but still have trouble understanding when someone speaks fast. But here is the good news. You can train your ear just like you train your body in exercise. At first, it feels hard. Then, with time, your ear becomes strong, fast, and smart. The story of Rina, the listener who changed her English. Let me tell you a story. Rina was from Indonesia. She studied English for 10 years. She knew grammar. She knew vocabulary. But when she listened to movies, she understood almost nothing. One day, she told me, "Zara, I feel like I am listening to music, not words." So, I asked her to try something new. I told her, stop trying to understand every word. Just listen to the rhythm. She started listening to English podcasts every morning. In the beginning, she did not understand much, but she listened every day without stress. After 2 weeks, she noticed something strange. She could catch some words. After 1 month, she started to hear sentences. After 3 months, she could understand the main ideas easily. Her secret was simple. She trained her ear slowly, without fear. She learned to enjoy the sound of English before she worried about the meaning. Listening comes before speaking. Think about how babies learn to talk. When a baby is born, he does not speak. He listens for months. He listens to his parents, to the sounds, to the music of the language. Then, one day, he starts saying small words. The baby does not study grammar. The baby listens and absorbs. That is how we all learn language. Listening always comes before speaking. If you want to speak English like a storyteller, you must first learn to listen like one. How to train your ears step by step. Let us make this simple. Here is a 3-step way to train your ear. Step 1. Listen every day. Choose short, clear content that matches your level. You do not need to understand everything. Just let your ears hear English for 10 to 15 minutes daily. Your brain needs repeated contact with the sound. Step 2. Listen again and again. Do not jump to new audio every day. Listen to the same one many times. The first time, you will understand little. The second time, more. The third time, even more. Each repeat helps your brain connect sound and meaning. Step 3. Shadow and repeat. After listening, repeat what you hear. You do not need to say it perfectly. Just try to match the rhythm and tone. This helps your ear and mouth work together. If you do this for a few weeks, you will notice something amazing. English will begin to sound slower. You will start to hear where one word ends and another begins. That is the sign that your ear is growing stronger. The hidden music of English. English has rhythm, just like a song. Some words are strong and some are soft. Native speakers use this rhythm to make their speech flow naturally. For example, listen to this short sentence. I want to go to the park. In real speech, people say, I want to go to the park. The important words are strong, want, go, and park. The small words are soft and quick, to and the. When you train your ear, do not only listen to words. Listen to the beat. Try to feel the rhythm of English. Once you understand the music of English, you will understand more, even when people speak fast. The story of Kareem, from confusion to confidence. Kareem was from Egypt. He worked in a hotel where many guests spoke English. When people talked to him, he smiled and nodded, but he understood very little. He felt embarrassed and frustrated. One day, he started listening to English news every morning. At first, it sounded too fast. He wanted to quit. But he continued. After 1 month, he began to recognize common words. After 2 months, he could understand short stories on the radio. After 6 months, something magical happened. When guests spoke to him, he understood without translating in his mind. He told me, Zara, I did not just learn English. I learned to listen. That is what happens when you listen every day. Your brain starts to understand English directly, without translating into your language. And that is when fluency truly begins. How to listen actively. Listening passively means hearing sounds without focus. Listening actively means paying attention. When you listen actively, ask yourself small questions. What is happening? Who is speaking? How does the speaker feel? What is the tone of voice? When you do this, you connect words to emotions. You start understanding not only the meaning, but also the feeling behind the words. This is what makes your listening powerful. What not to do. Many learners make these mistakes when they practice listening. First, they listen to material that is too hard. If you cannot understand anything, your brain becomes tired. Choose something you can understand at least 60% of. Second, they use subtitles all the time. Subtitles can help, but if you depend on them, your eyes work more than your ears. So, listen once without subtitles, then once with them to check understanding. Third, they listen without repetition. Listening one time is not enough. Each repeat helps your brain hear something new. Avoid these mistakes, and your listening will grow faster than you expect. Reflection and takeaway. Let us remember the main ideas from this chapter. You do not have a bad ear. You simply have an ear that needs training. Fast English is only fast until your brain learns to recognize the patterns. Then it becomes music you can understand. So, listen every day. Repeat what you hear. Enjoy the rhythm and sound of the language. Do not worry if you do not understand everything right now. Understanding grows with time, not with pressure. As we move to the next chapter, think about this. How much time do you give to listening every day? Can you give just 10 minutes more? Because every minute you spend listening is a step closer to fluency. The problem with translating. Imagine this situation. You are talking to someone in English. They ask you a question. You understand it, but before you answer, you think in your language, translate the words, then speak. By the time you say your sentence, the conversation has already moved on. You feel nervous and slow. This happens because your brain is doing double work. It listens, translates, then speaks. Native speakers do not do that. They think directly in their language. To be fluent, you must train your brain to do the same. The story of Elena, the overthinker. Let me tell you about Elena. She was from Spain and spoke good English. She knew grammar well and had a big vocabulary. But when she tried to have a real conversation, she froze. She said, "Zara, I know what I want to say in Spanish, but I cannot find the words in English fast enough." So I told her to stop translating completely for 1 week. She looked shocked. "How can I do that?" she asked. I said, "Start small. Think about your daily life in English. Simple things. For example, when you make coffee, say in your mind, 'I am making coffee.' When you walk, say, 'I am walking to the shop.' Do not translate. Just describe what you see in English." She tried it. At first, it felt strange. She had to remind herself to use English thoughts. But after a few days, something changed. The sentences started coming faster. Her brain began to choose English words without Spanish in the middle. After 1 month, she told me, "Zara, I can finally speak without thinking so much. It feels free." That is the magic of thinking in English. Why your brain can learn to think in English. Your brain is powerful. It learns by connection and repetition. When you hear a word many times in a real situation, your brain links that word to an image or feeling. For example, when you hear the word apple, while seeing an apple, you no longer need to translate. Your brain knows the meaning directly. This is how children learn languages. They do not memorize word lists. They live with the language. You can train your brain the same way. It just takes time, patience, and daily use. Simple steps to start thinking in English. Here are some steps you can start today. Step 1. Use English for simple thoughts. Start with what you are doing right now. Say in your mind, "I am listening to English. I am learning. I am sitting on a chair." These small sentences train your brain to form English naturally. Step 2. Describe what you see. Look around your room and describe objects. The bed is soft. The window is open. The sky looks beautiful. This connects English words to real things. Step 3. Replace common thoughts in your language with English ones. For example, when you wake up, instead of saying in your language, "I am tired," say it in English. When you are hungry, think, "I want to eat." When you are happy, think, "I feel good." The more often you do this, the faster your brain learns to think directly in English. Speak your thoughts aloud. When you feel ready, start speaking your thoughts aloud. This step changes your thinking from silent to spoken fluency. You can do it while cooking, cleaning, or walking. Talk about what you are doing. Say things like, I am washing the dishes. The water is warm. I am almost finished. Do not worry if you make mistakes. Remember, fluency is not perfection. It is comfort. When you speak to yourself, you remove fear. You practice without pressure. And slowly, you will notice that your thoughts and speech become one. The story of Raj, the quiet thinker. Raj was a student from India who wanted to improve his speaking. He told me, Zara, I understand English, but I speak too slowly. I asked, do you translate in your mind before you speak? He said, yes, always. I told him to use the mirror method. Every morning, he stood in front of the mirror and spoke about his day for 2 minutes. He was not allowed to translate. He could only use the English words he already knew. In the beginning, he paused a lot. He used simple words, but he kept going. After a few weeks, his sentences became smoother. His eyes looked more confident. He told me, Zara, now English feels more natural. I think less. I just talk. That is how you build automatic speaking, by practicing your thoughts out loud every day. When you do not know the word. Sometimes, you want to say something, but you do not know the word in English. What should you do? Do not stop. Describe it another way. For example, if you forget the word knife, you can say, the thing I use to cut food. If you forget fridge, say, the box that keeps food cold. This way, you keep your brain in English mode. You do not go back to your first language. And you practice flexibility, which is an important part of fluency. Thinking in English through listening. Listening helps you think in English faster. When you listen to English daily, your brain starts to hear sentence patterns. You begin to notice how words connect naturally. For example, you hear phrases like, I have to go, I do not know, it is up to you. When you listen often, these short phrases become part of your thinking. You do not translate them anymore. You use them automatically. So, listening and thinking work together. The more you listen, the easier it becomes to think in English. The more you think in English, the faster you speak. Reflection and takeaway. Thinking in English is not about speed. It is about habit. You train your brain through small, daily actions. Describe your life in English. Speak your thoughts aloud. Listen to real English every day. At first, your brain will still translate a little. That is normal. But if you stay patient, the translation voice will slowly disappear. And one day, you will notice something beautiful. You will wake up, start your day, and realize that your mind is already thinking in English. What confidence really means. Confidence is not about being perfect. It is not about speaking like a native speaker. Confidence means speaking even when you are nervous. It means showing your real self through your words. Think about it like this. When you were a child, you learned to walk. You fell many times, but you kept going. You did not wait until you were perfect to start walking. Speaking English is the same. You cannot wait until you know every word or every grammar rule. You must begin now, even with small, simple words. That courage, that action, creates confidence. The story of Amir, the quiet voice. Let me tell you a story about Amir. He was from Egypt and had studied English for many years. He understood a lot but spoke very quietly. When he joined my class, I could hardly hear him. I asked Amir, why do you speak so softly? He said, because I am afraid people will laugh at my accent. I smiled and told him, your accent is not a problem. It is your story. It shows where you come from. He looked surprised. So I gave him a small task. Every day, he had to read one paragraph of English out loud, alone in his room, but loudly and clearly, like an actor. At first, it felt strange. But after a week, his voice grew stronger. After a month, I asked him to give a short talk in class. He stood up, smiled, and spoke with energy. When he finished, everyone clapped. Later he told me, "Zara, my accent did not disappear, but my fear did." That is real confidence. Why most learners sound shy. Many learners sound shy in English for three main reasons. First, they're afraid of mistakes. Second, they compare themselves to others. Third, they do not practice speaking often enough. Let us talk about each one. Mistakes are normal. Even native speakers make mistakes every day. The only difference is they do not stop speaking because of them. They laugh, correct themselves, and continue. If you can do the same, your confidence will grow fast. Next, comparing yourself to others is dangerous. Maybe your friend speaks faster or knows more words. That does not mean you are worse. Every learner has a different story, a different journey, a different rhythm. Do not look at where someone else is. Look at how far you have come. Finally, confidence grows only when you speak often. It is like a muscle. You cannot build it by reading about it. You must use it again and again. The power of the voice. Your voice is more powerful than you think. It carries your emotion, your personality, your ideas. When you speak quietly or too fast, people feel your nervousness. When you speak slowly, clearly, and with emotion, people feel your confidence. So, how can you use your voice better? Here are some simple tips. Pause between sentences. Breathe. Do not rush. Your voice needs space to sound natural. Smile while you speak. When you smile, your tone becomes warm. Your listener feels comfortable. And remember to use your hands or small gestures. They help your body relax, and when your body relaxes, your voice sounds more confident. Practice the confident voice. Here is a short exercise you can do every day. Find a mirror. Look at yourself. Choose a simple topic, like what you did today or what you plan for tomorrow. Then, speak for 1 minute. Speak slowly. Smile. Keep your shoulders relaxed. And do not stop, even if you make a mistake. After 1 minute, take a breath and ask yourself, how do I sound? Do not ask, was my grammar correct? Ask, did I sound clear? Did I sound sure of myself? When you repeat this daily, you will notice that your English voice begins to grow stronger. The story of Lila, the nervous presenter. Lila was from Brazil and worked in an office where she had to speak English in meetings. She told me, "Zara, I get so nervous that I forget my words." I said, "Lila, before your next meeting, stand up and practice your sentences out loud. Not in your head, with your real voice. And before you start, take 1 deep breath." She tried it. At her next meeting, she spoke slowly and clearly. When she finished, her boss said, "Good job, Lila. You spoke with confidence today." She told me later, it was not that my English became better in 1 week. It was that I stopped being afraid of my own voice. Focus on communication, not perfection. Many learners believe they must speak perfectly to sound confident. That is not true. Confidence comes from communication, not perfection. When you focus on making a connection, not just correct sentences, your English becomes more natural. People will forgive small mistakes if your message is clear and your attitude is positive. They will remember how you made them feel, not every word you said. So next time you speak English, forget about being perfect. Focus on being clear, kind, and confident. How to handle nervous moments. Everyone feels nervous sometimes, even fluent speakers. So here is what to do when your heart starts beating fast. First, take a slow breath. It helps calm your body. Second, pause before you speak. A short pause shows that you are in control. Third, use short sentences. When you feel nervous, long sentences make it harder. Say small, clear ideas. And last, smile. It changes how you feel and how others see you. Confidence is not the absence of fear. It is speaking even when fear is still there. Reflection and takeaway. Confidence does not come from knowing everything. It comes from trusting yourself. It comes from using your voice again and again until it becomes part of you. Your accent is not your weakness. Your mistakes are not your failure. They're your teachers. When you speak with confidence, people listen to your message, not your mistakes. So stand tall. Speak clearly. And remember, your voice matters. Why real practice matters. Think about how you learned your first language. You did not study grammar books or vocabulary lists when you were a child. You listened, repeated, played, and lived in that language. That is how your brain learns best. Through experience, not only explanation. So if you want to be fluent in English, you must live with English every day. Not just for study, but as a natural part of your life. The story of Tom, the busy learner. Tom was one of my online students from Korea. He worked long hours and often said, "Zara, I have no time to practice English." I told him, "Tom, you do not need extra time. You just need to change how you use the time you already have." So we made a plan. In the morning, while brushing his teeth, he listened to short English podcasts. During lunch, he read one English paragraph from a website he liked. In the evening, he spoke to himself about his day in English for 2 minutes. That was all. After 2 months, his speaking became faster, his listening sharper, and his confidence stronger. He said, "I did not find more time. I just filled my time with English." That is what real practice means. Create an English environment around you. You may not live in an English-speaking country, but you can still create your own English world. Change your phone language to English. This helps you learn new words naturally every day. Watch your favorite shows or movies in English with English subtitles. Listen carefully, repeat short lines, and notice how people use words in real situations. Label things in your home. Put small notes on your mirror, your fridge, your desk. Write mirror, spoon, chair. Seeing English words every day helps your brain remember them without effort. And one more thing, follow English-speaking YouTube channels or podcasts you enjoy. If you like cooking, listen to cooking shows in English. If you like travel, listen to travel stories. When you mix English with your interests, learning feels easy. Speak to yourself every day. Many learners say, "But Zara, I have no one to talk to in English." That is not a problem. You can still practice speaking every day with yourself. This is one of the most powerful methods for fluency. When you speak to yourself, you train your brain to build sentences faster. You train your mouth to move naturally. You build confidence in a safe space. You can do it anytime, while cooking, walking, cleaning, or before bed. Say simple things like, "I am washing the dishes." "I am thinking about tomorrow." "I am learning English right now." If you keep doing this, your fluency will grow without you even noticing. Use English in small real situations. Even small moments can be practice. When you write a shopping list, write it in English. When you send a text to a friend, try using English sometimes. When you search the internet, use English keywords. These small actions keep your brain active in English. One of my students, Hannah from Turkey, began doing this. She changed her phone to English, wrote her daily to-do list in English, and started commenting in English on YouTube videos she liked. After 3 months, she told me, "Zara, now English feels like a part of my life, not just a subject." That is the goal. To make English your daily habit, not a school assignment. Listening practice during the day. Listening does not need to be a special study time. It can happen all day long. When you wake up, listen to an English news headline or short podcast. When you are cooking, play an English story or song. When you are traveling or exercising, listen to English conversations. You do not need to understand every word. Just let the rhythm and sound of English enter your mind. Over time, you will start understanding more naturally. The power of repetition. Repetition is the secret behind real practice. When you listen to something once, your brain understands a little. When you listen again, it understands more. And when you listen again and again, the words become part of you. So do not always look for new materials. Repeat what you already enjoy. Choose one podcast, one video, or one story, and repeat it several times until you can almost predict the next word. This is how fluency builds, not through speed, but through deep understanding. Join real conversations online. Even if you cannot travel, you can connect with people online. Join English-speaking groups on social media. Find language exchange partners. There are many people who want to practice just like you. Start small. Say hello. Ask simple questions. Talk about your hobbies or culture. It is not about being perfect. It is about being brave. Real conversation gives you something no book can: energy, connection, and real communication. The story of Mina, the shy student who became fluent. Mina was from Japan. She was shy and afraid to speak. She studied grammar alone for years, but never used English in real life. One day, she decided to join a small online English group. The first time, she only listened. The second time, she said one sentence. The third time, she told a short story. After 6 months, she was leading conversations. She told me, "Zara, I did not become fluent by learning more grammar. I became fluent by speaking every week." Her story shows that real practice makes all the difference. Reflection and takeaway. You do not need to live in an English-speaking country to become fluent. You only need to live with English every day. Use the time you already have. Change your environment. Speak to yourself. Listen often. Repeat. Connect with others when you can. Real practice is not about time. It is about habit. When you make English a part of your daily life, your fluency will grow naturally, step by step, moment by moment. Why storytelling makes English powerful. Have you ever noticed how you remember stories more easily than facts? That is because stories touch emotion. They make you see pictures in your mind. They make you care. When you tell a story, you connect with people. You make English real. Storytelling is one of the best ways to practice speaking because it teaches you rhythm, emotion, and structure. So, even if your English is simple, you can still speak beautifully if you speak like a storyteller. The story of Luis, the flat speaker. Luis was from Mexico. He knew a lot of English words. But when he spoke, his voice was flat. Every sentence sounded the same. He said, "Zara, I think people get bored when I talk." I listened to him for a few minutes and said, "Luis, you are not boring. Your stories are. Because you tell them without feeling." He looked surprised. "How can I fix that?" he asked. I told him, "Learn to use your voice like a color. Sometimes soft, sometimes strong. Use pauses. Show emotion." He practiced every day with short stories from his life. At first, it felt strange to change his tone, but soon, people started to listen more. His voice became alive. That is the power of storytelling. The secret of a good story. Every story has a few simple parts. You do not need big words or long sentences. You just need a clear structure. A beginning where something starts. A middle where something happens. An end where something changes. For example, listen to this short story. "Last week, I missed my bus. I felt sad. But then, as I walked home, I met an old friend I had not seen for years. We talked for an hour. If I had caught that bus, I would never have met him." See? It is a simple story, but it has emotion, change, and meaning. When you tell stories like this in English, you learn how to express ideas clearly and your fluency grows faster. Speak with emotion. When you tell a story, do not only use your words. Use your feelings. If you are talking about something funny, let your voice smile. If it is sad, slow down and speak softly. If it is exciting, raise your energy. Emotion makes English come alive. It also helps listeners understand you better, even if your words are simple. You do not need perfect grammar to touch someone's heart. You just need to sound real. Practice storytelling every day. You can practice storytelling anywhere. Every evening, think of one small story from your day. Maybe something that made you laugh, or a mistake that taught you something, or a kind thing someone did for you. Then, tell that story in English. Say it out loud, slowly, and clearly. Use the storytelling steps. What happened first? What happened next? How did it end? What did you learn? This simple habit will make your English smoother and more emotional. The story of Noor, the quiet narrator. Noor was from Pakistan. She loved listening to English movies and songs. But she always felt afraid to speak. One day, I gave her a challenge. Tell me one small story about your childhood, I said. At first, she said, I don't know how. So I helped her with questions. What did you love doing as a child? What made you happy? She smiled and said, I loved going to my grandmother's house. She always cooked sweet rice for me. I said, good. Now tell me what happened there. She continued, we sat on the floor. She told me stories about her childhood. I remember her smile. By the end, her eyes were shining. It was a simple story, but it was beautiful because it was honest. From that day, Noor began to tell one story a week. Her speaking improved faster than ever. Not because she learned new words, but because she learned to express herself. Using simple story phrases. When you tell stories in English, you can use short phrases that make your speaking sound natural. Here are some examples. One day, suddenly, at that moment, I could not believe it, and then, in the end. These small phrases help your story flow smoothly. They give rhythm to your voice and help you sound more fluent. You can practice them with small stories from your daily life. Connect with the listener. A storyteller is not only talking. They are connecting. When you tell a story, imagine you are speaking to one person who really wants to listen. Look at them, smile, and let your voice carry emotion. Ask questions like, have you ever felt the same? Can you imagine how that felt? This makes your listener part of the story. It builds connection. It also helps your English feel natural, like a real conversation. The story of Paulo, the fear of forgetting words. Paulo from Brazil told me, Zara, I try to tell stories, but I forget words in the middle. I said, that is not a problem. A good storyteller can continue even without the perfect word. If you forget a word, describe it. If you forget a sentence, skip it and move to the next part. The story must keep flowing. Fluency is not about never forgetting. It is about continuing with confidence. Paulo practiced that. He told the same short story every day for a week. Each time, he used different words. Each time, it became smoother. After a while, he said, Zara, I do not freeze anymore when I forget words. I just keep going. That is what storytellers do. Reflection and takeaway. Storytelling is more than speaking practice. It is the art of expressing who you are. When you speak like a storyteller, you learn to use your voice, your emotion, and your imagination. You connect with others in a real way. So remember, you do not need perfect grammar to be interesting. You need honesty. You need feeling. You need your story. Tell your story every day to yourself, to your friends, or even to the mirror. Because when your voice tells your story, your English becomes alive. Why motivation comes and goes. Learning a language is like climbing a mountain. When you start, you feel excited. You take your first steps full of energy. But after a while, the path becomes steep. You get tired. You look up and see how far you still have to go. That is when many people stop. But if you understand that this feeling is normal, you will not stop. You will keep walking. Motivation is not something you have all the time. It comes and goes like waves. But what keeps you going is not motivation. It is commitment. It is your reason why. The story of May, the slow climber. May was from China. She started learning English with great excitement. She watched English movies, listened to podcasts, and practiced speaking every day. But after 6 months, she told me, "Zara, I feel stuck. I do not see progress. Maybe English is not for me." I said, "May, do you remember when you learned to ride a bicycle?" She nodded. "At first, it was hard, right? You fell many times. You thought you could not do it. But one day, something changed. You did not fall anymore." She smiled. "Yes, I remember." I said, "English is the same. You do not notice your growth every day, but it is happening quietly, just like learning to balance on that bicycle." A few months later, May messaged me. "Zara, you were right. Today, I spoke with a tourist in English for 5 minutes. I did not plan it. It just happened." That is progress. It does not shout. It whispers. Remember your why. When you feel tired, remember why you started learning English. Maybe you want to travel. Maybe you want a better job. Maybe you want to connect with people from other countries. Or maybe you just love the sound of the language. Your reason is your power. Write it down. Say it out loud when you feel lost. Every great learner has a strong why. It is what pulls you forward when motivation is weak. The story of Rina, the dreamer. Rina was from Indonesia. Her dream was to study in another country. But she came from a small town and had little money for lessons. She studied alone with free videos and podcasts. Sometimes she cried because progress felt slow. But she never forgot her dream. She said, "Every time I feel tired, I imagine myself sitting in an English-speaking classroom, understanding everything." Years later, she sent me a message from Australia. She said, "Zara, I am here. I am studying in English every day. I made it." Her dream gave her the energy to continue when everything felt hard. How to stay motivated every day. Motivation grows when you take small actions every day. You do not need to do big things. You just need to move forward, even a little. Here are some simple habits that keep motivation strong. 1. Listen to English you enjoy. If you love stories, listen to stories. If you love music, listen to songs. When learning is fun, it never feels like work. 2. Celebrate small progress. Did you understand a new phrase today? Good. Did you speak English for 2 minutes without stopping? Excellent. Every small win matters. 3. Track your journey. Write down what you learned each week. When you look back, you will see how far you have come. 4. Take breaks when you need them. Rest is not failure. Sometimes, you need to stop for a moment to keep going strong. The story of David, the tired learner. David was from Italy. He loved English but often said, "I feel tired. I study, but I forget everything." I told him, "David, do not study harder. Study smarter." I helped him make a plan. He studied for only 20 minutes a day, but he focused completely during that time. No phone. No distractions. After each session, he took 5 minutes to relax and repeat what he learned out loud. After a month, he told me, "Zara, I am learning faster with less time. I feel better." Sometimes, staying motivated is not about doing more. It is about doing it better. Turn boredom into curiosity. When English starts to feel boring, change how you learn. Watch new kinds of videos. Try a different topic. Learn phrases from movies you love. Join an online group where people share ideas. Curiosity brings motivation back. When your learning feels alive and new, your energy will return naturally. The story of Layla, the curious learner. Layla was from Morocco. She told me, "Zara, I am bored. I always read the same lessons." I asked, "What do you love in real life?" She said, "I love cooking." So I told her to start watching English cooking videos and write down the words she heard. After 2 weeks, she said, "Zara, I cannot stop learning. I want to know every new word in these videos. Her English grew faster because she followed her curiosity, not just her textbooks. Be kind to yourself. Sometimes we are too hard on ourselves. We expect to be perfect too soon. But learning a language takes time. There will be good days and bad days. Some days you will speak well. Other days, you will forget simple words. That is normal. It happens to everyone. When that happens, be kind to yourself. Say, it is okay. I am learning. And keep going. Fluency is not a race. It is a journey. Reflection and takeaway. You will not always feel motivated, but you can always choose to keep going. When you feel tired, remember why you started. When you feel stuck, look back at how far you have come. When you feel bored, make learning fun again. You are not behind. You are exactly where you need to be. Every word you learn, every mistake you make, every small step you take is bringing you closer to fluency. The illusion of finished learning. Many people believe that once they reach a certain level, they are done. They stop practicing. They stop learning new words. They stop listening carefully. But language is alive. If you stop using it, it becomes quiet inside you. You do not lose it completely, but it becomes weaker. Fluency is like a muscle. You have to keep it moving. That is why long-term learners do not stop. They keep playing, exploring, and discovering new sides of English every day. The story of Hannah, the comfortable speaker. Hannah was from Japan. She reached an upper intermediate level in English. She could watch movies without subtitles. She could have long conversations easily. One day, she told me, "Zara, I think I am finished. I do not need to study anymore." I smiled and said, "Hannah, your English is strong, but it can still grow. You can make it more colorful." She looked confused. "More colorful? What do you mean?" I explained, "You can learn to express ideas with more feeling, more power, more depth. That is not about grammar. It is about life." So Hannah started reading simple English books again. She listened to different accents, talked with people from many countries, and began writing short stories. After a few months, she said, "I understand now. English keeps growing as I grow." That is long-term fluency. Keep learning like a child. Do you remember how children learn? They listen. They repeat. They play. They make mistakes. And they never stop asking questions. That is how long-term fluency works. When you stop being afraid to make mistakes and start being curious again, your English keeps improving naturally. Even when you already know a lot, stay a learner. Ask, why do native speakers say it that way? Ask, what does that phrase really mean? Ask, can I say this in a simpler or clearer way? Curiosity keeps your English alive. The story of Omar, the lifelong learner. Omar was from Egypt. He worked as a doctor and spoke English very well. One day he told me, "Zara, I am already fluent, but I feel like I am not growing anymore." I asked him, "When was the last time you learned a new word?" He thought for a moment and said, "A long time ago." I smiled. Then it is time to grow again. He started reading medical journals, novels, and articles in English. He began writing short reflections every night. A few months later, he told me, "I did not realize how much more English I could learn. Now I can explain my thoughts more deeply." Even though Omar was already fluent, he kept learning like a beginner, with curiosity and passion. Learn from real life, not only from lessons. When you become fluent, textbooks are not enough anymore. You need real life. Listen to how people talk on podcasts. Watch interviews with people from different countries. Notice how they tell stories, how they pause, how they laugh. Read short stories or articles about topics you enjoy. You will find new expressions that make your speaking natural. The best lessons are not always in classrooms. They are in the world around you. The story of Lila learning from life. Lila was from Spain. She loved English but felt bored with books. I told her, stop studying. Start living in English. So she began listening to English songs on her way to work. She followed English cooking channels while she cooked dinner. She changed her phone and computer to English. Soon, she told me, Zara, now I do not even think about studying. I just live in English every day. That is how long-term fluency feels. It is not something you do. It becomes part of who you are. Add depth, not just speed. Many learners think that fluency means speaking faster. But true fluency means expressing more. You can be slow and still be fluent if you speak with clarity, feeling, and meaning. Instead of learning hundreds of new words, learn to use simple words in rich ways. For example, the word time. You can say, take your time. It is time to go. For the first time. Time flies. Over time. One word, many uses. That is depth. When you explore English deeply, you start to sound more natural and more human. The story of Ravi, the deep speaker. Ravi from India spoke English very fast. But people often said, slow down, I cannot understand you. He thought fluency was about speed. But speed is only one part. I told him, Ravi, slow down. Use pauses. Speak with feeling. He practiced reading simple stories out loud slowly. He focused on meaning, not speed. After some time, people said, now your English sounds powerful. Ravi realized something important. Fluency is not a race. It is a rhythm. The joy of helping others. When you reach a higher level, one of the best ways to grow is to help others who are still learning. You can share your story, teach small lessons, or practice together with beginners. When you explain something in English, you understand it more deeply yourself. Teaching is another way of learning. Reflection and takeaway. Long-term fluency is not about perfection. It is about growth. You do not stop learning English when you become fluent. You simply enter a new chapter. You begin to use English not only to talk, but to think, to create, and to connect. Stay curious. Stay kind to yourself. Stay open to new experiences. Because the more you live in English, the more English lives in you. Looking back at your journey, do you remember how it began? Maybe you felt nervous. Maybe you said, my English is not good enough. Maybe you wanted to speak but could not find the words. Now, look at yourself. You can understand, you can express, you can think in English. You are no longer a beginner. You are a communicator. You can share your thoughts, your feelings, your dreams. You can connect with people from every part of the world. This is something powerful. Something beautiful. The story of Amina from fear to freedom. Amina was from Sudan. When she first started learning English, she was shy and afraid to speak. She said, Zara, I understand words, but my mouth does not move. I told her, do not worry about mistakes. Just start. Your words will come. She began speaking every day to herself, to her friends, to strangers. Some days, she felt brave. Other days, she wanted to give up. But she did not stop. Months later, she told me, Zara, now I speak English with my new friends from different countries. I never thought this was possible. Her voice had changed. It was not just about English anymore. It was about freedom. When you speak in another language, you feel a new part of yourself open up. The real gift of learning English. Many people think the goal of learning English is just to speak fluently. But there is something deeper. English gives you access to the world. It lets you understand other cultures. It helps you think in new ways. You begin to see that the world is full of voices, and your voice is one of them. You can listen to stories from people far away, and you can share your own story in return. That connection, that understanding is the real gift of learning English. The story of Tom, the global friend. Tom was from Poland. He started learning English to find a better job. But something unexpected happened. He joined an online English speaking group. There he met people from Korea, Brazil, and Turkey. They practiced together every week. Over time, they became close friends. They shared stories about their families, their countries, their dreams. Tom told me, Zara, now English is not just a skill. It is a bridge that connects me to people all over the world. That is what English can do. It connects hearts. Keep the flame alive. Now that you can speak English well, the next step is not to stop, but to keep the flame alive. How do you do that? Keep using English in real life. Keep listening, speaking, and reading every day, even for a few minutes. Watch movies, write small notes, talk to people online. Make English part of your life, not just your study. When you live with the language, you never lose it. It becomes part of you. The story of Leo living in English. Leo was from Argentina. After years of learning English, he stopped for a while. He thought, I already know enough. Months later, he said, Zara, my English feels slow again. I told him, then bring it back into your daily life. Use it again. He started listening to English podcasts in the morning. He watched short videos before bed. He wrote his thoughts in English in a small notebook. After a few weeks, he said, my English feels natural again. It came back easily. That is because English never leaves you. It just waits for you to use it again. Share your voice with the world. You now have something special, a voice that can reach beyond your country, beyond your language. Use it. Speak. Write. Share your story. The world needs your ideas. The world needs your kindness. The world needs your voice. When you speak in English, you are not only practicing a language, you are sharing a piece of who you are. Reflection. What you have learned. Before we finish, let us remember what this journey has taught you. You learned that confidence comes from small steps. That thinking in English makes your mind stronger. That storytelling gives emotion to your words. That mistakes are part of the process. That motivation is not always strong, but commitment keeps you going. That fluency grows with time, curiosity, and love. And most of all, you learned that English is not something outside you. It is something inside you. It lives in your thoughts, your heart, and your voice. The last message. So, my dear friend, as you finish this journey with me today, I want you to remember something very important. You are already enough. Your English does not have to be perfect. It just needs to be real. When you speak from your heart, people will listen. When you share your truth, your words will shine. So keep learning, keep growing, and keep sharing your beautiful English with the world. Because your journey does not end here. It is only beginning. And I, Zara, from Super English Talks, am so proud of you. Thank you for learning with me. Thank you for believing in yourself. And thank you for letting English become part of your life. Now go out there and speak your story.